The story begins with 4 people being summoned to a fantasy world like the great hero. The summoner then uses a device to see the magical ability of each of them, and when it comes to the protagonist Mukouda to be analyzed, they discover that his ability is different. Calls, grocery store online, and serves to cook. After that, the 4 have an audience with the king, who explains the situation in the world and says that he invoked them to defeat the demon king, who from time to time tries to take the kingdom. From time to time he comes to roll around, tries to take the kingdom, then leaves. Nothing new for an Isekai. However, Mukouda gets up and explains to the king that his ability is not useful for combat, so he would be of no use to the king, his army, and said that he would like to leave and live a normal life. He is released by the king, who gives him 20 gold coins before leaving. He wonders if that was too much or too little, and sees that everyone around him was judging him for his strange clothes. He then changes clothes and finds a place to stay. When he opens his statistics screen, he discovers he has the item box and appraiser skill, with his special skill being online growth. He clicks on this skill and another screen containing several supermarket products appear. He notices that they were not products from this world, but from Tokyo in the real world. He tries to buy water and something to eat, but he cannot because he has no balance. He then puts 1 silver coin as balance and receives his items on time. After understanding how his skill works, he is very happy, imagining that he could earn some money with it, and decides to leave the city. He takes a caravan to the neighboring city, and on the way asks the merchant next to him if he kept his goods in the item box, but he replies no, and says that the item box is an extremely rare skill that few have. Mukouda asks about the skill, evaluate, and he replies that every merchant's dream is to have she, but only heroes coming from other worlds can gain this ability. He keeps saying that he was wise to want to leave the country, because the king was planning to close the border. As soon as he gets off the carriage, he sees a government notice alerting everyone that the border was closed, thus frustrating his plan. Or not, because he has another idea to leave the country, go walking anyway, and to ensure that he would not have any problems on the way, he hires a group of C-rank adventurers to accompany him to the neighboring country. They leave in the morning, and after walking for hours they stop to eat. He tells everyone that he would cook and takes his culinary items that were stored in the item box, leaving everyone surprised that he has such a skill. He makes a very simple meal for everyone, who includes noodle soup and sandwich, but for some reason everyone praises his food a lot, saying that they never ate something so delicious before. He makes an excuse saying it was food from his homeland, and everyone holds the trip. On the way they find some monsters, including a wild boar giant, and they defeat him easily. He stores the boar meat in his item box, and when night falls he starts making dinner. The anime shows him cooking and explaining about each ingredient he was using. After the food is ready, they like it so much so that they ask to repeat it. Surprised by so many compliments, he uses the evaluator skill on them and discovers that their stats have increased a lot, and when analyzing the food he sees that it promoted a temporary increase in strength and magic. Everything seemed fine with the exception of the threatening being watching them the bush. The scene cuts with them stopping to rest once more, and afraid of discovering his ability to buy things from another world, he decides to cook with ingredients from that world. He then uses the meat of the wild boar they killed and makes another one delicious meal for everyone. Everyone eats until they can't take it anymore, but they look desperate when they see what was behind Mukouda. When he turns around, he sees a gigantic wolf asking him to feed him. "Hey boss, sends us some meat." He gives him his plate and he eats it in 1 second and says he wanted more. Mukouda runs to make it, and the animal destroys the second round in the blink of an eye. He asks for even more meat, making Mukouda serve him several times, and when he is finally satisfied, he turns to Mukouda, who was almost dying there from cooking so much, and asks him to become his familiar. The food was so good that he didn't even notice the trail of shit that Mukouda left when he saw him for the first time. Mukouda approaches and touches Fen, thus becoming its familiar and becoming responsible for its well-being. The scene cuts with him telling Mukouda that now that they are familiar, he should name him, and after thinking about dog names, Fenrir gets pissed, saying he is not a dog. Mukouda then names him Fel, and he likes it. The scene cuts with the group walking towards the border and everyone shitting themselves when they see the giant dog. They stop to have some food, and Mukouda warns Fel about the meat being almost over, and if he wanted to eat more then he would have to hunt some animal, and that's what he does by bringing back a giant B-ranked bird. Mukouda then prepares the food by frying the meat until golden, removing excess fat and marinating it with sauce. The hunger that this anime gives is indescribable. Only I know that impatient Fel keeps bugging Mukouda to eat, but he soon fills his belly, eating almost the whole bird alone. Arriving at the border, they see several guards mobilizing and warning learner. The leader of the group of adventurers explains that it is because of the Fell, since he is a Fenrir and this race can destroy a city alone. The commander of the army of the country then appears there blocking the entrance, but he explains that the Fenrir would not do anything and they were just passing through. After a conversation with threats from Mukouda to Fell like, "If you don't behave I'll take your food," the commander allows them to enter the country, but as soon as they enter a city he is forced to pay 7 silver coins to enter since he didn't have 1 guild card. The adventurer then tell him to join some guilds such as adventurers or merchants so he doesn't have to pay any fees, and he is in doubt which one to join, receiving the tip to join the two since he couldn't make up his mind. Werner tells him that for sure the king would know about his arrival in the kingdom because of the Fenrir he was bringing along and would probably want to talk to. It doesn't take long for this to happen, with a servant of the king inviting Mukouda to have an audience with him. The king, he did not want to go, but the servant did not stop insisting, irritating Fell, who threatens this servant and makes him run away at the time. He passes by the merchants guild and everyone is surprised by his familiar. He asks to join guild and the receptionist explains that there are 5 ranks and his rank would depend on what he would do and the size of his business. He says that he intended to be a traveling merchant and would set up a food stall wherever he goes, so he receives the iron rank. He gets a place to stay, but monsters aren't allowed, so he asks Fell to sleep outside. He says he doesn't care, but he was hungry, so Mukouda makes a special dinner for the two of them, which drives Fell crazy. It was so good, he decides to buy a portable pot at the online grocery store to make rice because he hasn't eaten for a long time, and when he sees him eating, Fell says he wanted it too. The scene cuts to the next day with Mukouda going to sell some items at the merchant guild. The girl asks to see the items, and when she sees them she gets scared and calls him to go to the back of the guild. There he talks to the owner, who says he has never seen salt and pepper of such high quality, and that in this quality it could even be presented to royalty as a valuable gift. He asks to buy everything and offers an incredible 14 gold coin, which is a lot considering he only paid 5 copper coins each. However, he increases it to 17 coins, thinking that Mukouda didn't want to sell. He sells it and goes to the Adventurers Guild, where he signs up and starts as a G rank. The receptionist explains that the G rank need to accept at least 1 mission a month to stay in the organization, and then he goes to the wall to look for it. He finds it a mission to look for medicinal herbs and decides to do it. The scene cuts to Fell hungry, wanting to eat. Mukouda makes the same steak as before, and he says he could eat it forever, it's so good, but Mukouda says there are even more delicious things than that out there, getting him excited. He uses the evaluator skill on Fell and sees that his stats were very high, with him being almost at the maximum level. The scene cuts with Mukouda in the field going to fulfill the mission. Fell goes out to hunt but worries about Mukouda because he knew there were several monsters around, so before leaving he grants Mukouda his divine protection or whatever that aura blue, and quickly he completes his mission. After having collected the herbs and done the work, he decides to start making lunch and buy simple ingredients because he was almost out of money. But how was he if he just won almost 20 gold coins? I don't know. I just know that while he was cooking, Fell brings that monster called Rockbird as game and says that he hunted more, but he couldn't bring everything at the same time. Mukouda makes a beautiful pasta with ground meat, and Fell, despite finding it strange in the beginning, he loves food to the point of getting all dirty with sauce, making Mukouda burst out laughing. The scene cuts with him seeing the rest of Fell's hunting that ranged from a giant snake to orcs, and yes, orcs are edible in this world. He puts everything inside his item box, and the scene cuts with him going to the Adventurers Guild to receive the money for his work. He receives some coins and notices that the receptionist wasn't so dry now. He asks if they buy monsters there, and she answers yes and makes a delighted face when she sees Mukouda's Fenrir through the window. However, when she sees that he has big monsters, she transfers him to someone else who takes him to the back of the store. When he learns of the large amount of monsters he has had, after seeing the total, he says that all the monsters were between rank B and rank A, and Mukouda says he would sell everything but their meat. He asks Mukouda if his familiar was really a Fenrir, because there were rumors that it was actually a dire wolf, because the Fenrir never have family members, but he soon realizes that he is a Fenrir by his behavior. He receives 202 gold coins for the sale, and when he leaves he says that he should start talking that he is a dire wolf to avoid Okay, remember that he makes a nice meal with orc meat before leaving, and despite feeling disgusted at first, he loves the meat when he tastes it. The scene cuts with Mukouda happy for having won so much money and tells Fel that it was thanks to him, that's why he would make a feast for the two of them. He even lets Fel choose what he wanted to eat and thinks it was raining, but it was just Fel drooling like a waterfall. He cooks several delicious meats until the main course arrives, which disappoints Fel for the size small, but as soon as he puts it in his mouth he says he has never eaten something so delicious like this in his life. This anime of hunger bro. Mukouda explains that this is prime meat and they give the best possible treatment to the cattle to produce the best meat in the world. His world, and Fel is surprised that in his world they raise animals just to eat. He says he is feeling much lighter and more active than usual, feeling that he could face a dragon and win. So Mukouda uses the evaluator on him and realizes that his stats had increased by 50%. He decides to go hunting. Mukouda takes the opportunity to go to sleep. The scene cuts showing Fel defeating several monsters with the greatest ease in the world, including a powerful orc general and a chimera, an enemy that he had some difficulty before, but this time he killed with just one blow. The episode ends with him taking a giant pile of monsters to Mukouda, saying that he exaggerated in the hunt because he got carried away. The scene cuts with him asking Fel how he hunts his prey, and he replies that when they are in a group he uses magic to eliminate them faster. He discovers that he can use magic when he sees his statistics, but he didn't know how to use it. Fel says that he just thought about the magic and it came out, but when trying Mukouda fails miserably. Fel then says that he wasn't letting the magic flow through his body first and asks him to touch his body while doing that. After understanding how it worked, Mukouda starts training and even gets the hang of it, but his fireball dissipates before reaching the target. Fel then says he should do some real training, takes him to a goblin camp. After Fel draws attention of them, they go after Mukouda, who is forced to defend himself with his fireballs and finally manages to launch a powerful ball that defeats some powerful, not right, but anyway. After waking up, Fel says he is impressed with his fireball, and at the opening his stats he realized that he has leveled up and gained the fireball spell. As soon as Mukouda gets up he gets dizzy and almost falls. He then says he is too tired to cook feathers, buys some snacks for the two to eat as dinner. Fel underestimates the snack, saying he wanted meat, but ends up liking it when he eats it. He feels much better after eating all that carbohydrate, and it's really good to eat it to gain information from Master Fitness here. The next day they arrive in a city and people are desperate, thinking that Fel was a monster that came to attack them, but with the arrival of the guards he says that it is just his familiar. After solving the situation, his entry into the city is allowed and they find a place to stay. It was already getting late, so Mukouda makes dinner that includes typical Japanese foods like tonkatsu and other things. Mano that hungry SLK, and Fel praises him a lot. After he eats, Mukouda makes his dish, but seeing the different food he was eating, Fel asks for more, saying that what he ate was far from enough. The scene cuts with Mukouda entering a bar and asking some people about this country, saying that he was a traveling merchant from the kingdom of Reichsieger and wanted to know more about this world. They say that the kingdom of Reichsieger has been in bad shape since the new king took over and is always at war. However, he says that two nearby kingdoms that I don't remember the name were very economically stable and had dungeons yet to come. On top of that, was perfect for adventure. They sell a map to Mukouda for 1 gold coin, thinking it was something rare, but after they left, guess what? Everyone starts laughing at him because that map could be bought for 1 silver coin in the Adventurers Guild. The episode ends with Mukouda going east in a country by the sea and hearing that Fel is already excited, wanting to eat the sea monsters there. And that was the summary of the first 4 episodes of Isekai Hourou Meshi. The story and adventures of our duo are just beginning, so if you want part 2 continuing the story, show me that you want by sharing this video and commenting what you think of the anime.